Hello! Happy equinox. Powerful time of energies, plus everything else we're going through is quite a challenging time. And I, as an elderly person in the UK, I'm supposed to stay in. I'm quite good at self-isolating, but when you're told you have to, it's a different thing. I can go out for walks and got my little car and stuff, but so today I thought it does cheer me up when I do these videos because I'm in touch with my higher bit, if you know what I mean. So I'm doing this really. I was gonna, I was gonna do it for Mother's Day because Mother's Day tomorrow in the UK. I think it's in America too, and also New Zealand next month. So I am a mother, and but I thought no, it's more important perhaps to do a bit of a cheer up for this difficult time we're going through. I had a very strange email from my daughter. She's in New Zealand and she tries to cheer me up, but she's not here. And of course, I need someone here. I have got no one to go and get me my, my tissues. Anyway, on a more serious note, thinking of mothers, and mine is no longer here. We didn't have a terribly good relationship, and I think to me, mothers, if you're lucky, if you have a good relationship, in my experience, it's a very difficult karmic thing to work out. But I don't want to go on too much about mothers. It just set me off thinking about the wartime because, of course, the situation we're in now is very similar to wartime, and there aren't many old dears or old gents left like me to tell the story. So I'm going to introduce that a little bit because I think it's quite relevant because it does remind me of how we managed or didn't manage. I mean, people are panicking, as you know, about things like toilet rolls and tissues and stuff like that. Well, we didn't have those in the war years. We didn't even have supermarkets, so it was a completely different thing. But we didn't have enough to eat, that was sure, because the ships weren't coming in with supplies. The farmers, the chaps that were farming and so forth, were all at war, and the country was really run by women in factories. They had to take over the male jobs, and so it was very female oriented actually. I think men forget that, and so there are lots of mothers. I mean, I think about my mother. I don't know how she managed because she really wasn't enough to eat. She had two children, and you had to queue for food and so forth. So it was a very dreary time, and not unlike now, because the younger people haven't experienced that. And I'm probably in a way quite fortunate because I've got the hang of it, although I was only quite tiny. Giving my age away, but you do get the hang of managing with next to nothing, and it's a matter of consciousness. I mean, the fear that was around then is very similar to the fear that's around now. Different kind of fear because then we had bombs dropping on us and people dying all over the place. It was a dreadful time, and that's only what. Oh, no, not that long. Well, it is quite a long time ago, 70 years ago, really. And I don't think this country has ever really got over it. So we're in a similar situation where we are having to limit ourselves, make do with what we've got, But I also really want to say, and this may be hard, it's a hard concept to understand, um, that really it's an illusion. I had a little bit of a telling off from my daughter in a way because I was worrying about something, and well, she was worrying actually, and I said, I don't accept it. I don't accept this that's going on. And I think this is the trouble. And I have had lots of different reports on the internet from different teachers, and they all say much the same thing that it's a phase we're having to go through. The Earth's going through a huge change. There's been a lot of electromagnetic disturbance, everything is surfacing. It has to be. It's not something that we can avoid. It may not last that long, but it's something that is going on that is forcing us, and it is a kind of back to Shiva again. Remember the video I talked about Shiva and the forcing of destruction and change? And in individual ways, we are all having to face our fears. I mean, woke up this morning thinking, oh gosh, I can't go into town. Well, so what? I don't very often go into town. And it's just, I think, everyone in their personal situation is having to face a fear. For some people, it might be they can't get to the pub. For some people, they can't get a box of tissues. For some people, they probably can't get what they want to eat and they can't go on holiday. I mean, planes, airports, so forth. I mean, everything is going to be affected. We all know this. But I do wish that the news people particularly would leave it alone. It's the same with the newspapers. What's the good of keep talking about it and showing us pictures of the virus, I refuse to watch the news. I refuse to take it on board. And I just keep saying to myself, this is an illusion. This is not real. Although on a practical level it is. It's getting your consciousness in one place, your practical self in another, because we are here and we have to deal with it best we can. But I think we have to keep reminding ourselves, oh gosh, I'm fidgety today. We have to keep reminding ourselves that it isn't real, because at soul level, where we really, really are, it doesn't exist. There's only just love and beauty and peace and harmony and all. But I think this is a lesson. To me, it feels like, during the war years, people were much more companionable, kind, helping each other out. It was a different atmosphere altogether, which we've lost, because everyone's become so insular with their mobile phones and the internet and so forth, driving cars on their own. I have my greatest times when I get a bus, talking to people, So it's a question of reassessing our personal needs, getting rid of the fears and learning to be more creative. Creativity. I get quite intense about things, as you've noticed. Creativity. People will have to learn to perhaps not to watch much television. Who knows? They will have to learn to talk to their families, play games, learn a new skill, read books you've never read, do a bit of gardening, learn to make soup. I made some lovely soup the other day. Learn to make soup, learn to do things that are very basic and perhaps old-fashioned really, but it will put you in touch with basic needs and help you to get out of this head stuff, because that's where it's all happening, isn't it? Really. And we do create our reality. And although this is going on, we can create, to me it seems like a little oasis within that, where we can survive quite happily on our own. It's not for long. It's not going to be forever. The last war, the UK with the World War II, it lasted for 7 years. Imagine it. And it took a while to recover. We hadn't got NHS, we hadn't got free medicines, we hadn't really got anything at all to help us through it. It was all, mothers had to make do and mend with stuff, and we had 1 egg a week. And people are out there buying 2 or 3 dozen eggs. I just tell myself that next week, when they were still getting through last week's shop, the shelves might begin to fill up again. So let's hope that will happen. I think I've got enough to last me what I need, but I've got no one to help me, so I'll have to go out and get my own at some point. So it's really a message that mothers, thank you mothers for, there must be mothers now, kids to feed, babies to feed, the ill, the infirm, that need tablets, need medicines, need hospitalisation. On that level, it must be really, really difficult for them. So there's no good telling them to get out of their heads, is it? It's a very practical and real situation for a lot of people. And the elderly, well, I'm elderly, but I'm okay at the moment. At the moment, so I'm making do with what I've got, and my own. I'm very lucky. I've had the hang of being alone for 5 years with illness and stuff, so I've got the hang of it. And learn to meditate, listen to music. It's an opportunity, guys, to really get in touch with your true self, your soul self, your inner self, the self that really, really matters. The other stuff's going on, but it's a question of kind of withdrawing from that, finding a new level of consciousness within, and where there is, there is the different self you don't even know yet. So look upon this as an opportunity, okay? And thank the mothers. It's Mother's Day tomorrow in the UK. My daughter's in New Zealand, so I won't be seeing her obviously, but I would like to do one on mothers as well. Maybe I will later on, because I think they do have a hard time of it, and they get blamed for everything, of course, as I do, and my mother did. So let's give our mothers a hug anyway, and forgive them, because they do their best. My mother did her very best, although it was difficult. This is a little happy story to end with. I'd been down to visit them in Bristol, and it was quite a journey, 200 miles from where I live now in Lincolnshire, and it's always difficult, especially when you get older and you get individual, you get your own self. Parents seem far away, don't they? Unless you've got a very good link. And on the way home, I stopped halfway in a service station, and my mother had made me a little pack of sandwiches, and they were salmon sandwiches. She'd cut all the crust off and made them into little quarters. And the other day, when I was doing the same for myself, I suddenly thought of her, and I was really quite tearful. I thought she did her best. She did her very best from where she was at, as I do with my daughter. So, on that note, what a mixed bag it is today. There's just too much to talk about, really. So let's get out of our heads, and while we have to cope, to somehow mentally and emotionally put ourselves in a place of creativity and appreciate our mums, and that's perhaps all for today, making me feel tearful. Okay, folks, I hope you enjoy that. Take care of yourselves. God bless. Love you lots. Bye bye.